Are we done? That's such an idiot. Just checking up my notes. Okay, here we go. Hi, welcome to my podcast. Welcome to the Go Grab That Day podcast. Just a quick introduction for the absolute legend that is coming up next. This is my interview with Mr. Mc Sweeney, which I thoroughly enjoyed. I was a big fan of James from when he appeared on The Ultimate Fighter, probably one of the best seasons, the Rashad Evans versus Rampage Jackson season. And he was one of the main characters on that, but he's gone on to do a lot of big things, between bare knuckle to, K1 to MMA, and he's got some pretty cool things that he wants to do next, so he's not by no means done, and he's got a great brain for the game. I thoroughly enjoyed talking to him, and again, like I said about a lot of my guests, he's definitely one I would like to talk to again. So here's Mc Sweeney. I really hope you enjoyed it, and be sure to follow him online and check out his like I said, he's got a great brain for the game, and you can't listen to him enough. And one thing about this podcast is he's super honest, which I loved about it. So yeah, enjoy. Mr. Mc Sweeney, can you hear me? Don't think I have your audio there now.
You hear me okay?
Oh, I can hear you now. Yeah, perfect.
There you go.
Sweet. Listen, I appreciate you coming on. It's an absolute honor to speak to you.
Having us on.
There's one thing I wanted to say. I absolutely apologize. I didn't realize things were so bad over in Texas at the moment. I'm kind of out of the loop with news and things like that. I avoid watching it,
Oh yeah, don't blame you. No, it wasn't so bad. We had like 72 hours with no electricity. We had a bad snowstorm, and then just a big rolling power cuts across the whole of Texas. So we had like no electricity, no heating, no nothing for like 72 hours. But it was like minus 16 degrees, so it was very cold.
But I'm right in saying that Texas should not get snow, yeah?
Never. I mean, I think apparently it snowed once, like a couple of inches of snow 5 years ago. Prior to that, like we had over a foot of snow, which is unheard of for Texas. So and it just came out of nowhere. Yeah, it was kind of crazy. And then the electricity board just all shut down across the whole of Texas. And so for the house where I live, we were having like 1 hour of power, and then like the rest of the day nothing. Yeah. So everyone was just trying to help each other, because we were all family and friends here and elderly and stuff like that. We were all trying to do each other's part and help. And then where I have a gym down the street, and luckily enough, where my gym was, we had power like one day. So I invited all the local family and friends to go to the gym, turn the power on. We all sat in the gym all day, and then the power of the gym went off, and then we went back to the houses again. It was just like it was a bit messy for everybody. It was just tough because we got kids and stuff, So it's
I can imagine.
We're trying to make the best of it. Yeah, but it's okay. We're past it now. We've had 24 hours of non-stop electricity and heat, so hopefully we're sun's back out. So we'll see.
That's good. Well, like I said, I was completely out of the loop. I was kind of more just, it was when you told me where you were living, I was checking the time difference, and I got all these things up in my Google about the news, what's going on in Texas. I'm like, shit, that was kind of bad timing. But anyway,
it's not a problem. Not a big deal. It wasn't doing too much anyway, so that's okay.
That's good. Well, again, like I said, I really appreciate you coming on, and I've set out a few questions to ask you, so I'll try and follow that the best way I can. But
yeah, my pleasure.
You've already mentioned you've got a gym out in Texas now.
Yeah, Mc Sweeney Martial Arts, based out here in Plano. It's like 20 minutes from central Dallas. So we've been open just over a year, which has been great. But it was a terrible time to open on hindsight, because we opened in January, and then of course in the end of March they shut us down for a few months because COVID. Yeah. And then when we reopened, it had a lot of restrictions, and then of course a lot of people were very concerned about, not so much directly about the gym, but I think it was just more like indirect concerns because their finances, like someone lost their jobs.
Yeah.
Someone didn't have extra revenue. So what's the first thing to cut off the bill? It's the gym membership, right? Like you pay the house, the insurance, the food, don't need the gym membership. I'll train at home. Let me get rid of that. So we went through that kind of a headache. But we're on the other side. I'm very blessed. We're still here. There's a lot of gyms that aren't still here. So every day is very thankful to stay open.
Yeah, that's it. It's a tough. I spoke to a couple of coaches back home in Ireland as well, and they're doing their best. But I think at the same time, we need guys like you as well. We need coaches, because
obviously a lot of people with mental health problems now being locked down and all over the world, depending on where you are, I suppose. But you need your MMA gyms, your regular, you need everything, all the gyms
Well,
to stay afloat.
you need the outlet. I mean, there's a lot of outlets people have in life, right? There's loads of outlets where they go to the bar, they go out to restaurants, or they go and socialize, or whatever it may be. But I do know personally from my own experience, if I'm not training or I don't go to the gym, I do feel differently about myself. I do know my endorphins make me feel much better when I train. If I'm not training, then I'm kind of not eating the best. It's all to do with a healthy lifestyle, right? So when you're just locked down or you're not doing anything and the gyms are all closed, then it tends to put people into a spiral, and that's dangerous, in my opinion.
Yeah, and I think that's what people kind of don't realize. A lot of people think the gym is all, to go get fit, get your body, but it's not. Like I know for me, anytime, like you just said, if you're ever having a bad day, you've had a bad day at work or something, there's nothing better than to
Yeah.
go hit a bag or whatever, lift a few weights, whatever you're into, even go for a run, whatever you prefer. But there's for your head much more than your body. There's nothing like it.
Yeah, I've got to have the outlet, right? And I think, like even in my kids program, we teach the children from day one that, just for example, the church is where you pray, the
Yeah,
school is where you learn, the restaurant's where you eat, and the gym is where you can fight or you can let out your aggression, and
yeah,
you don't mix those up. So
yeah,
you don't pray at the school, you don't eat at the church, you don't mix this stuff up. So for us as adults or children, we have that same mentality too, right? So for us to keep ourselves relaxed or peace of mind, and and keep the demons at bay that everyone has at one stage of life,
yeah,
you need your gym. And you
yeah,
need to see those same people that are interested in the same things as you are, and be around those healthy people.
yeah, absolutely.
Everyone at the gym is going through their own little thing, but you have a commodity because you're in a gym together. You may not be even the best of friends outside the gym, but when you're in the gym together, you're training together, you do anything for that person. And then there are some people that do train together to do become the best of friends. Myself personally, all my best friends I've met through the gym or through my industry. So I think it's very, very important. So down in Texas, we've been very lucky that we've been able to stay open, and they've allowed gyms to be open.
Yeah, it's super important. There's, like I said, there's a mate of mine. He's a pro fighter back home in Galway, and he's fighting tooth and nail to try and help because he's up. Basically, what he's doing at the moment is they're jumping from house to house, training in these tiny living rooms. And like you grew up in London, England,
Mhm.
houses are pretty similar. They're not that big for
Yeah,
doing
of course.
MMA training, and that's what he's got
Yeah,
to do. That's his only option is to train groups of 20 in a small living room house. And
which is even more dangerous to a degree. I mean, if you want to follow the guidelines that the government's telling people to go along, then okay, at least if you're in a gym, people are more spread out. There's
Mhm.
less chance of people getting hurt. There's more chance of people like if you come into a business like my business, for example, we have to temperature check everyone when they come in. But if there's kind of people's houses and all this train together, if you're following the guidelines of COVID, if people want, if that's what the government are trying to tell everybody, at least why wouldn't they let it be done at a gym where it can be governed properly,
Exactly,
rather than
exactly.
let people go out there and do it rogue in parks and
Yeah,
in houses where there's 30 people packed into a living room. It's just
yeah,
dangerous
that's exactly it.
on more stages than one. So I just think that and it's just my opinion. Of course, everyone's going to jump on and say no, this, no, that, and that's their personal opinion, and they're welcome to that. My opinion in the industry of over 30 years I've been training. Um, I will always stick to healthy training, healthy mind, healthy body. If you eat clean and you're taking all your vitamins and all your vitamins and everything else you need to do, you produce a healthy lifestyle.
Yeah,
And that's what's going to keep people healthy. Is that's people don't go to the gym and then think, okay, I'm going to go out and drink an alcohol, or I'm going to go to the nearest McDonald's. They
yeah,
just had a great workout. They want to go and put good food in their body. They want to stay
exactly.
healthy. So it's about creating a healthy lifestyle, right? And I think and that's the problem, is that there's all over the world, there's so many different rules to this. And I think that's what's making so many people get frustrated. And in America, it's very similar to a degree, because you got like it's every state is like a country in America.
Yeah,
So of course, I believe I'm very lucky to be in Texas, because Texas is a very strong state, and they've stuck by allowing the people to make their own decisions. They're not mandating certain things, or they're not locking people down for long periods of time. But then there's other states in America that are still locked down. Their businesses are still closed. People are still mandated. They can't go out. They cannot. And it's just, it's just crippled the country in so many ways.
Yes, so much so. Like I pay attention to a lot of podcasters and stuff in America, and so much so that a lot of them are packing up their stuff and they're moving to Texas. That's what I hear. They're all shipping down there because they have to.
But yeah, but the problem is that there's it's not going to get into I don't want to get into a political conversation. I always believe that always ends up in a problem. But if you're looking at it, like let's say New York, for example, that's a democratic state. That's just a fact. That's not they're a democratic state. They voted for Democrats, and their policies are to stay locked down. So those people are all packing up New York and moving to Republican states that have more of a policy of being open. And then when they come to this state, they vote Democrat.
It's madness.
Knocking them down. They're trying to get away from that, but then they voted for the same people here. So it's like it's kind of crazy. But I don't know. That's complete another podcast on its own.
That's exactly it. No matter what, every time I start one of these meetings, I try and avoid getting into the talking COVID and politics. It's just so hard because it's everywhere.
COVID and religion, right? That's the three. Three dominoes, right? That's how it works in life.
Well, anyway, sticking to MMA, one thing I wanted to ask you is, I've always wanted to pick someone's brain on The Ultimate Fighter. I'm a huge fan. I know a lot of people now are not so high on it, but I love The Ultimate Fighter. I've rewatched so many seasons of it over and over. In particular, your season, it's one of my favorites. But in terms of being in the house and obviously being locked down, you know more about it now than any time. But how did you what was your opinion of The Ultimate Fighter? Your time being there?
I mean, at the time, we're talking 10 years ago now. So at the time, it was a great avenue for me because I was fighting pretty much kickboxing my whole and Muay Thai my whole career, and then all everyone's goals was to get to the K1 in Japan and really try to make it to the big league, and get the big money, and then all of a sudden out of nowhere that was just taken down. K1 Japan was kind of folding. I know Ishii, the K1 director, was arrested, and there was all kinds of different problems, and K1 just went under. So it was kind of like, wow, it's one thing we were looking for. And then of course Pride was loose. Pride went under and sold it out to UFC, and so all those big numbers and all those big names that you were following for so many years was bought out, and then you're like, wow, where do I go from here? And there was just an opportunity. I was offered to go over to America to train at Greg Jackson's gym, and I had a couple of MMA fights, and one in particular I won really quickly, like 10 seconds or something, and I think it got shown, and I got an opportunity to go to Greg Jackson's gym, and then I was after being there for a little while, I was offered to help Rashad Evans get ready for his world title fight against Forrest Griffin. And of course, I was a very similar size to Forrest at the time and stuff like that. So I was a sparring partner. And then in the end, me and Rashad, we grew a friendship. I cornered him for the fight, and we trained together. And then, of course, he won the belt. And then before I was about to come home, I just got a phone call. It was like 2 days before I was coming home to England. It was Joe Silver just called me and said, "Hey, James, how you doing? It's Joe Silver." I was like, "Oh, hey, Joe, what's up?" And then it was like, "Do you want to be on this reality show?" And I was like, "No." and he was like, "What do you mean no?" And I said, "I don't want to be on a reality. I'm a fighter, man. I'm not a reality guy. Like, that's not for me." He said, No, it's about fighting. It's the Ultimate Fighter show." So I've never seen it. He said, "Well, Rashad's going to be on it and Rampage, and you should be on it. Could you pass a medical?" And I said, "Yeah, of course." And I didn't know anything about this show. I'd never seen it before. And I was new to MMA, right? I knew nothing about the game, really. And I'd done no groundwork or anything. I just took up MMA fights just because they got offered to me. And I just literally won the fights off the back of my natural fighting ability, And so then I called Rashad and said about it. And he's like, "Yeah, you should be on it. It's going to be cool. If you get it, you're going to win a contract." And I was like, "Okay." He goes, "Yeah, you'll be fine." So I was like, "Okay, well, fuck it. Let's try." So I went on the show. And I literally just had no idea what the show was about. Nothing at all until I really started to realize, okay, well, now I was learning as I was going along. And of course, I was the smallest guy on the show and the only English guy. Everyone was American. And so I was really a small demographic on the show. So immediately I felt that like I had to kind of stand up and be a little bit more brass than normal, because I didn't want anyone to try and point or paint a target on my back. So I was like, I'm not an MMA guy at the time. I was just a kickboxer. So I was very forward at being forwardly aggressive, like, so nobody thought I was a weak link. Because in a house full of sharks, right, you don't want to be the sheep.
Yeah.
So I was like, there's no way. So I made my mark a little bit, and but to be honest, we was all very young. We was all young guys. We was all trying to follow a dream, and we all trying to fake it till we make it. And at the time, it was all so serious, and every little decision you made was life changing. You know what I mean? But looking back now with a ton of experience, it was a great opportunity for America. I mean, for me, it put my name out there in America. It gave me a lot of opportunities. It was a very popular show due to Kimbo being on there and stuff like that and so forth. And even to this day, 10 years later, I still get people say hi about the show, recognize me from the show. It's kind of crazy, really, because I've done so much since then. But that show really made a mark on a lot of people.
Yeah, there's a lot of big guys that come out of that. One thing I wanted to, because I remember you were supposed to fight Kimbo on that show, am I right?
Well, what happened was I wasn't. Well, it was a chance me and him could fight, because I had my first fight against Wes Shivers, the big
football player,
10 football player, yeah. And then the next fight was going to be against Matt Mitrione. Matt had fought against I'm trying to remember everyone's name there. Scott Junk from Hawaii, and they had a heavy fight. They went back and forth, and I could get one on the decision. And then I knew Matt was a very athletic guy. He was an NFL kid too. And I remember saying to Rashad, you should pick him, because he wasn't so talented, but he had very good athleticism, and he could pick up fast, and he had fast hands for a big guy. So I remember saying, like, you should get him on our team, And then when I used to spar with Matt, I used to put a lot of pressure on him. I was more experienced in stand-up, of course, than he was. But and I think he was nervous about fighting me in the second fight, if I'm honest. He was playing a lot of games. He went and disappeared for like a few hours and locked himself in a closet and all kinds of stuff. He slept in a closet. And then everyone was saying he wasn't medically going to be cleared to fight. And then Dana came in and saw Matt, and then said that he went to Kimbo and said, you better suit up. You could be stepping in to fight me. So then I went and saw Kimbo and just said to him, listen, we were pals, but okay, from this point on, I'm sorry, but we probably won't be speaking until after the fight, So we shook hands and we were cool. But as it turns out, Mitrione took the fight and Kimbo didn't get a chance. No.
I vaguely remember that. Right? Did you kind of wish you had I know Kimbo wasn't the most experienced MMA fighter, but I suppose it would have been nice to have a crack at him, I'd imagine, on the show all the same, even though you guys were friends.
Well, it was kind of strange, because when he first came on the show, I only knew of him as everyone else did, about the YouTube guy, right? This bare knuckle guy and all the rest of it. And I also knew, in the bare knuckle world, he was something. But I also knew in the professional fight league at that time, in my opinion, I knew, there was a lot of guys that were more capable guys. But and of course, the way he conducted himself on camera, I was like, okay, like everyone was like, okay, we're gonna get this guy if we get the chance. Yeah. But to be honest, I can't be more honest than I was, and he was a really cool guy. He was really nice, and a complete opposite. If anyone ever got the chance to know Kimbo on a personal level, and I only got to spend a certain amount of time with him, and he was a really humble, nice guy, and he used to say things like, "Hey guys, listen, I'm just here, like I'm just here to learn. Like I want to learn as much as possible." And he'd be asking all these questions. I remember he was asking me about leg kicks, and I was helping him with leg kicks, and then he would teach about boxing and tell us stories. And yeah, he was just a really cool guy. He talked about his family and all his children he had. I think he had like 6 kids, and he was just a cool guy. Yeah, really cool guy. So when we got a chance that we would fight, I'd already had a nice opinion of him. Yeah. So I was like, I don't really want to have to fight the guy, to be honest. Like, I liked him, you know what I mean? But business is business, and I fought friends before, so I had no problem with it. But yeah, it wasn't like I was really like, oh damn, I'm dying to fight him. But yeah, I mean, to be honest, everything was set out to when it was where I was meant to fight Matt Mitrione, and that's the way it was. And of course, I won that fight, so that was fine. But life just paved out the way it was meant to pave out.
Yeah, that's it. But in terms of opponents you fought, like you fought some pretty big names. Like out here, Doug Viney is a huge name. He coaches the city kickboxing guys. Tai Tuivasa. In terms of all the guys you have fought, who would you say was your toughest opponent to date?
In total, everybody.
Yeah, in total, say going through your kickboxing, even your bare knuckle.
To be honest, Fabio Maldonado was probably my toughest guy
Wow, I remember Fabio
because
in the UFC.
I was fighting UFC 120 in England, and I was meant to fight against. I'm terrible. I have no disrespect to him if he ever gets to watch this. He was in the Ultimate Fighter show too, but he was a coach for Rampage. He was an English guy from Liverpool. I think his name was Dave. Really good guy, wrestler. But we were meant to fight in UFC 120 in England, and during his training camp, I think he broke his neck.
Ouch.
Yeah, and I don't think he ever fought again. So last minute, the fight got cancelled. So I got a call from UFC telling me the fight was cancelled. And I was like, is there going to be a replacement? And they were like, no, we don't have a replacement. It's too late. It's too close. Don't think we have anybody. So then, like, I kind of like, okay, well, I was disappointed, but it was like 2 weeks out from the fight, right? So I was like, okay, well, so be it. We'll do it another fight. So about for 3 or 4 days, I kind of deployed and I had a few drinks and ate some crap food and just kind of like disengaged, right? And then I got a call again, like 3 days later. Oh no, we found somebody. We got someone. And I was like, what? You said it was off. And they're like, no, it's on. So I was like, oh shit, who is it? Oh, Fabio Maldonado. And I was like, who the fuck is this guy? So I look him up, and it's his first UFC fight. I just see all these boxing fights. But I see he's a tough guy, but I just see a boxer, right? So I don't really think too much. So I said, you know what? Okay, fine. Let's go and do the fight. I'm going to put it on him. In 1 round, I'm going to put this kid away. That's it. I'm going to go out there. 1 round, I'm going to put this kid away. So I pretty much went out and to be honest, it was probably the best round of my career.
Yeah.
The first round, I just literally lit him up. I did everything I could to him. And then in the second round, my game plan was like, okay, I know I can finish this fight now. And he slipped a punch and he threw like 2 body shots. And he fractured my rib and cracked another one. And I heard it break internally, like I felt it, and then I kind of like just teetered through the whole second round.
Yeah.
Like I just like literally, he won the round, I'm sure, and I just made it through safely. So I went back to the corner, and I remember I couldn't really breathe very well. The referee come over and said, Sweeney, you okay? And I was like, yeah, I'm fine, no problem. But I thought if I went out there, it was a round apiece now. I could just jab the round out. I couldn't throw any kicks above the waist because my ribs were killing me. I couldn't really do too much. And I thought, well, I could just jab this round out and let's just see what happens. And maybe I can get on the decision or whatever. And the referee, he knew something was wrong. And then I think he put me up against the cage and hit me a couple of body shots again. Fabio knew that I was injured. And I didn't go down, but the referee heard the noises and then he jumped in and stopped it. And he said, no, your ribs are broke. Your ribs are broke. And then he stopped the fight. Yeah. So, but that was one of my toughest fights because I remember hitting Fabio with everything I had. And then, of course, later seeing him fight against people like Fedor and watching all of his fights. He's just a monster, right? The guy can just take a licking and keep on kicking. Like when he saw him fight against, I think, didn't he fight Rampage at one stage?
I think so,
and
yeah.
And then he fought the other guy that was going to be a big, he was a very heavy puncher as well, light heavyweight in the UFC. I think he's a Brazilian guy, right? And then he actually beat the piss out of him on the floor, heavy ground and pound, but he still would not go out. Like it was like a fight of the year or something. And that's just what Fabio's made of. He's just got a heart like, you can't put the guy away.
Well, I remember any time I used to hear of Fabio, because I've watched MMA and the UFC for a long time, but anytime I'd heard he was booked on a card, I loved to watch him fight because one way or the other, you're getting an entertaining fight, and he was just gritty. The word gritty is perfect for him,
And that's the thing. He's just got, he's got a lot of grit in his spirit. That's for sure. Like he just keeps on ticking. He keeps on walking you down. And you do get to a point of where you hit him with so much. And then fucking, what this guy made of? I don't know what else I'm hitting with. Everybody else, of course, there's been tough guys. They're all tough, right? They get to a certain level, but they're all good guys. They're all tough. But there's just a couple of guys out there that you think are just made of something else.
While we were talking about actual reality shows, there's something I wanted to ask you as well. I had last week on my podcast a guy named James Quinn McDonough. He's a big gypsy bare knuckle boxing in Ireland and England, or he used to be.
Yeah.
But now, what he's looking to do, he's trying to start. He's actually about to set up a Big Brother Ultimate Fighter version of like bare knuckle boxing. So he's getting a
Jeez.
team. Yeah, he's getting a team from America, like team from England, and all around the world and stuff like that. But I wanted to ask you, you've had one bare knuckle boxing fight, yes?
I've actually had a couple, but that one I had was the last one I had for. That was in America. I
Yeah,
had two others, and also fought bare knuckle Muay Thai as well.
you fought bare knuckle Muay Thai. Jesus Christ.
Yes.
So how, in terms of the difference between all the different areas you fought, what is bare knuckle like to actually take part in?
It's completely different because especially with heavyweights, it's different. Because like, I fought LeVar Johnson, right? And the same thing. I was meant to fight another kid. A week before, 10 days before the fight, they change it to LeVar Johnson. And then I'm like, I know that name. I'm really sure I know that name. Then I've already said yes, right? Because the fight's 10 days away. And I look up LeVar Johnson. I'm like, I remember this guy, one of the hardest hitting UFC heavyweights of all time. Like,
Yeah.
you know, and then as it turned out, I know he had a lot of criminal charges placed against him and stuff like that for all kinds of stuff. And he got released from the UFC for that kind of stuff. And then I was like, oh, God, I'm just, okay, here we go. But the problem is, well, not the problem, but the danger is with bare knuckle. Like when I fought LeVar, when you hit as heavy as heavyweights do, it takes one shot. And I've never been knocked out in my career, thank touch wood. And I think LeVar Johnson was the closest because I remember we knew he threw this like looping right hand. So I slipped the punch and went to throw it, but he didn't. He threw this opposite hook and it clipped me on the side of my head and gave me that big scar there.
Yeah.
And all I remember was being on my knee, looking down to this blood. I was on one knee. And all I remember was like 6, 7, 8, and I'm like, what the fuck happened to 4, 5, and 7? So I jump up, and the referee's like, "You okay?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'm good." And he's like, "Nope, you're not good," and he stopped dead. But
Yeah.
yeah, I just got hit with one clip, and it broke LeVar's hand. And but if my punch would have landed and his would have just slipped and missed, like opposite way around, he would have gone down.
Yeah.
And that's the thing with bare knuckle boxing. It's not always you could fight 10 times and it could be 9-1 or it could be 5-5. You could it's just going to be who can land, especially
Yeah.
with guys 260, 120 kilos and stuff like that know how to punch.
I would imagine.
So
And
there's
sorry.
different dangers, right?
So in terms of could you be tempted back to do it again?
Yes, for sure. I've had numerous offers to fight bare knuckle again, and I've said yes to all of them. I've had actually, I had a company offer me to fight the WBC ex-heavyweight champion Shannon Briggs in bare knuckle boxing. And I said yes, no
Hell.
problem. Let's fight. And I think he was asking for too much money for them, and they couldn't make the agreement. But yeah, I have no problem fighting bare knuckle. I mean, it's a fight to fight, and my striking is, I believe, is very good, and I know I am. Some things that happen like the same. That's what people don't understand, I guess, and that's what there's only a few fighters out there that I know that have taken losses, and it doesn't affect them mentally. And I'm one of those guys too. And the fact of I lose and I don't like losing. I've lost fights before, but it's the part of the game. If you don't want to lose, don't fight because it's always going to be a risk, and it doesn't mean that because somebody lost, they're not a good fighter anymore, or because this guy lost, he's no good. But that's an easy thing for the public to see, right? Like if a guy loses 2 fights in a row, everyone's like, oh, like Conor McGregor, for example. Look at this example, right? You got a guy that led the way for Ireland. He made the biggest superstar in the UFC history, was undefeated. And when he was winning all his fights, everyone was on the Conor train, right? And no, he's unbelievable, the best thing since this and that. And of course, he's got his diehard fans still, but now he's lost a couple. People are saying, oh, he should retire. He should do this. Oh, he should just let it go. He's not the same. And it's like, he retired. The kid's like, 30 years old.
Yeah.
Why can you retire? Because he lost a fight. Like, hang on a second. It's not your decision, first of all, when someone starts the fight or when they retire. But second of all, if he lost, he lost. That's the part of the game. There's always going to be a loser, and it can't always go the way you want it to go. And that's just life, right? And that's the same as me fighting bare knuckle, Thai boxing, kickboxing, MMA. The fact is, as an athlete or a martial artist, you make mistakes, you learn, and you come back. You make mistakes in the gym, you make mistakes everywhere, and then hopefully when it comes to the fight, you don't make a mistake.
Yeah, well, I mean,
But but we're human, right? Things happen.
yeah. And like anybody that trains knows that the best lessons you ever have are your mistakes, because they stick with you.
Yeah, I mean, it's very easy to go when you win a fight and you're on a great winning streak and everyone's blowing smoke up your arse, telling you how great you are and you're feeling on top of the world. That's amazing. That's all well and good. But the fact is, what really makes you dig deep and what's really going to prove if you're the real deal or not is when you lose and come back. And I actually do believe, and I was speaking to Freddie Roach about this, he's been my boxing coach for 12 years. And I said the same to him. He said he believed that actually when one of his fighters actually loses a fight and comes back, he thinks it makes them a better fighter.
Mm-hmm.
Not that they want everyone to lose by no means, because they don't. But he said when they do lose, if they come back and they come back stronger, they're more determined. They're more focused. They live with the fear of what it feels like to lose. They live with the fear of that shitty feeling, and how you're going to shake it and how you're going to get better from it. So, I've never lost on purpose. Just get that way. I didn't lose to try and be a better fighter. That's not straight. But if to make the best of a bad situation, you got to look at it that way.
It's like that old saying, fear the wounded beast. So
Yeah,
that's kind of
yeah,
what happens with a lot of fighters. They come back and they correct all their mistakes, and then that's when they're most dangerous.
yeah, yeah. Or if not, that's just hey, that's just a part of life, and you got to suck it up. And you're meant to go as far as you're meant to go. You're meant to do the best you can possibly do. And sometimes along the road, sometimes I'm a Christian, so for myself, I believe that God has always had my back and He has my path. And just because I want a certain thing doesn't mean that I'm going to get that certain thing. Maybe there's a bigger picture for me. It's just at the time I don't see it, right? So, but everyone has their own goals and drive, but sometimes we're made for bigger and better things. You just don't realize what's out there until you have to learn.
That's it, and that's probably the best attitude to have, really. In terms of yourself, how is I know you've been coaching kind of on and off for a long time, but how is your transition to kind of, because obviously now you're doing a lot more coaching than you would have been fighting. So how are you finding the transition into coaching?
I've always loved coaching. It's always been an amazing passion for mine. I just did it by pure accident, right? So most people over the years, in the last 10 years that I got to train with, at the time I was a K1 guy, so my striking was a good level. So they were MMA guys or they were kickboxers or Thai boxers or whatever. So my striking was a good level. So they'd always pick my brains and ask me stuff, and I'd find myself explaining or saying, "Oh yeah, don't do that. If you do this, and if you do that, be careful of this and be careful of that." And then, I got to open my first gym, which was a wreck when I opened my first gym like 11 years ago, because I was just I just wasn't experienced enough, to be honest. That's why I get I have my personal opinions about certain coaches that if they've never fought before, or if they're very young, and I think, well, if you never fought before and you're so young, how do you have the experience to coach?
Mm-hmm.
Because for myself personally, looking back, I'm a way better coach now than I would have been 10 years ago. I see things way different. I have a different mindset. I kind of like not a third eye, but I can see it from the fighter's point of view. I can see it from the opponent's point of view, and I can also see it from my point of view, which is the coach, from the third side, from the third look. So I have a different outlook, and I'm just my coaching just got better and better. I've worked with some really good guys over the years and coached some high level guys, some champions, of course, UFC guys I've coached and cornered. And then now I've got my own crew of kids now that I've been building. And that's what I really, really enjoy, is that right now I've got a couple of guys that are pros, undefeated. I've taken them from amateur to professional. They're undefeated. And I always say it's easy to coach a champion, right? You can step into a coaching role and coach a champion. But that's easy, isn't it? Because you haven't got to teach him the hook. You haven't got to teach him this. You haven't got to teach the mindset. He's already a champion. But to create a champion, now that's an achievement, and to give someone that. So at the moment, I've been really working on that stuff. And of course, we haven't been busy fighting ourselves for the last year with COVID. So I've been really spending a lot of time coaching and bringing through some of my younger guys and working with some older guys too that are more experienced. And they've taken a bit of time to come, but they're starting to come now. And no, I'm really enjoying. Yeah, because like some fighters are very they'll wear the same cup, they'll wear the same mouthpiece, they have to be with the same coach. They want any change, right? So they're very structured. So when you get a new fighter who leaves the next coach or something, usually it has to be a big disaster for them to leave. So it takes a while for them guys to show up, whereas I've had a few show up now. We're starting to help them as well. But yeah, no, I really enjoy coaching, and it's definitely my next passion, which is why I opened this gym. The gym I have now is huge. It's 9,000 square feet. It's a big gym. It's the biggest in Dallas Fort Worth. It's large, and we have everything under one roof. And that's why I've really done it now. So when I do decide to retire in the next couple of years, it'd be an easy transition for me to continue coaching.
Well, the good thing is, that, which I was hoping I would hear, is because obviously going through your resume, I mean, you've dabbled in a bit of everything in terms of fights, so you're no better man to coach than you. But you can hear the passion in your voice when you're talking, which is what anyone wants when they're when they're going to a gym. They want to hear a passionate coach. You want to hear someone which you clearly still have. It's as clear as day to hear in your voice that you're still super passionate about all.
Well, to be honest, I could be really tired, right? I could feel not the best or under the weather. When I'm in the gym and I'm helping, all that just goes out the window. And I also have much pride because I've worked with some really good coaches, and I've learned a lot of good stuff from them. And I've also built my own system, which I've stolen good things from everyone that I've worked with, and created my own training system of striking, jiu-jitsu, grappling, ground and pound, strength and conditioning, and everything else. So I'm very stubborn and very proud of what I've learned from such good people like Greg Jackson, like Freddie Roach, like Lucian Carbin, like all these top Phil Nurse, all these top guys that I've worked with over the years, Robert Drysdale and Ricky Lundell, and all these guys that I've trained with for such a long period of time. These guys are the best in their field, and they've gave me these tools, and I owe them the respect, and I owe the sport the respect, not to allow it to be diluted. So I must hold it with a certain level of esteem, and that's why, to be honest, I get a little bit frustrated because nowadays everyone posts everything on Instagram, everything's online, everything's been posted out there, and they're diluting very talented work, and they make it look bad, and you make it look unrealistic, and it's like, wow, this new breed of coaching out there, this Instagram and Facebook and all this stuff. There's just some things that of course I have to promote my gym, and I have to show a couple little things here and there to promote my gym, to show what we do, but I don't do a whole load online because I think that I won't dilute the technique. I won't I'll give it you have to go to university, right, to learn to become a certain, like, you want to be a lawyer or an attorney, you have to go to law school. What you learn in law school is what you learn in law school. You don't go online and pick that up on Instagram or YouTube. You have to go to the very best university in the world to become an attorney. So to be a very good fighter, I don't think that you should be just chucking all this stuff out there online for everyone to fuck with and pick holes in and change, and dilute it. I don't agree with that. I think martial arts is great to spread the word. I understand that. That's fantastic. But I do think that it allows a lot of fake people to step up and claim that they know something that maybe they do not know.
Yeah, that's something I actually have seen a lot of. Like, I get for personal trainers, for your strength and condition, I understand that being online, but I see it's in particular the last year or so, heaps of like jujitsu kind of fundamentals online, and I never understood how the hell you're going to actually learn to do anything jujitsu just by watching a screen. It makes no sense because
Well,
it's so complex.
there's a lot of great guys out there in the world, like Renzo Gracie, lots Roger Gracie. There's Robert Drysdale. There's with Leo Vieira. There's some amazing jiu-jitsu practitioners in the world. But if you really look at their stuff, they have online courses where you will buy a chapter of their course, and it's online. You have to pay for it. It's a subscription, a membership, or whatever you like. But most of those courses, they give a very good insight breakdown, and it takes hours. Their courses are hours and hours and hours and hours of material just to learn 3 or 4 techniques. So that just goes to show you how much intelligence goes into what they're teaching, right? And that's how good they are. So keeping that in mind, if they showed you 5 techniques in a 3-hour period, and they have to talk and explain and give you all the dangers and be careful of this and inch here and inch there, shrimp here, turn your knuckles down this way, don't grip with your thumb, grip with it. All these little intimate details that make jiu-jitsu so beautiful. If it takes that long to show you those simple techniques, what the fuck are you going to learn from a minute video on Instagram?
I totally agree.
So what happens is you get these guys, they saw a minute video on Instagram or, a 2-minute Facebook post. They see it, they go to the gym, they claim that technique's theirs, they try and teach someone it, but they don't have any idea of the foundation that technique was built on.
Yeah.
The underlying dangers of that technique. The fear that comes in. If you do this, be careful of that. When you go there, you're gonna be vulnerable here. And if you don't get it here, you can change your hips and turn over. So all these little ins and outs, they don't explain none of that because they don't know it. They just saw what they saw on Facebook. It's like someone telling you how to throw a jab. A jab is a very intimate, hard thing to explain. But some idiot on Facebook will show you how to do it in 10 seconds, and but then you can't find his fights anywhere. You can't see him pick up his WBC boxing titles, or you can't see none of that stuff. If you ever see the real high level guys, you won't see their stuff out there like. And I honestly believe it's because they understand that they're of an old school, and they also understand that they give the sport the respect it deserves, and they won't dilute their knowledge.
Yeah.
They won't have just people come in and just take their techniques and clear off. So for myself, I am very passionate about what I teach, and I do. I'm very open to being questioned about techniques. I actually love questions. I love when people say, "Yeah, but coach, if I do this, what happens if he does?" I love that thing, and if I don't know the answer, I'm like, "Wow, okay. Well, do you know what, guys? We're here for the next couple of hours until we work this out." No worries.
But I won't keep you much longer now because I've kept you long enough as it is. But one thing I wanted to talk to you about is you spent a lot of time living and training in Thailand.
In Thailand, yes, I lived in Thailand for almost 6 years in Phuket, and I was there. Originally went there in, I think it was like 2013 for a training camp. I'd been to Thailand a bunch anyway for Phuket when I was young, and then 2013 I had a fight, getting ready for a fight. I think it was in Lithuania or something, and or Croatia, MMA fight, and I did my training camp there. And then when we came back, I was living in Las Vegas, and my wife had come to my training camp with me, and she was really talking a lot about Thailand. She really liked it and so forth. And I was negotiating a contract with ONE FC at the time. And then my first fight happened for ONE FC, and it was in Manila, in the Philippines. And I had to fly from Las Vegas. It was such a long flight and a heavy. I had 2 connections. It was long. I left on Monday and got there like Thursday or some. It was terrible. And then I remember saying to myself, like, God, if I don't beat this guy in the first round, like, I'm going to be on my ass. I'm going to be exhausted. And I fought an Australian guy, Chris Locktev, and I knocked him out. And then when I came back, I was like, geez, I've got 5 more fights on this contract with ONE FC. I can't keep making that flight. It's going to be murder. So we were just working it out. We said, okay, let's go to Thailand. So we went to Thailand, and and I started living out there.
And how did you find the like, I know I plan on it whenever the world, if it ever gets back to normal, I have signed up to do like just a month-long camp out there. But I always love to listen to John Wayne Parr's stories of the days when he trained there, and he living in shitty conditions and stuff like that. Just he said it was the best thing he ever did for him to basically to strengthen his mind and body and stuff like that. And in terms of that, how did you find the actual transition to living in Thailand and training full time?
It was good. I mean, I wasn't living in shitty conditions. As I had a nice house and so forth. But I mean, I trained in Holland for a long period of time, and I also trained in Koh Samui before that. So when I fought in the K1 Amsterdam Arena, I did my preparation in Koh Samui. So I trained in Thailand before too, and I was living in shit conditions back then. So I understand what they're talking about. But to be honest, and everyone has yet again, I might take some heat for this, but I'm going to speak to my word, and I've never been shy of saying how I feel. But coming from Holland, style of Muay Thai or kickboxing compared to the Thai style, I was much more appreciative of the Dutch style. I liked it better. I thought it was much more compatible to MMA. And the fact is, apart from now what's going on in ONE FC, prior to that, you've never seen a Thai boxer in UFC.
That's true. That is true.
And what happens is, when do you ever see really high level Thai guys go into MMA? You don't.
It is, because that's true.
And there's a reason. There's a reason. It's because they don't box too much. They kick a lot, which means they get taken down all the time. single kicks, single kicks, single kicks, you get taken down. Single knees, you get taken down.
Yeah.
You know, punch, like they make 2 or 3 punches, right? Pun, hook, pun, and they make a single kick, or they step over. They haven't really. It works in Thailand. I think Thai boxing works against, like, karate versus karate. Thai boxing works in Thailand. If you want to be a Thai boxer, I think the European style would work because it's way more boxing. But the problem is that you don't get counted for boxing in Thailand. You can box all day in the fight, and they won't even count that as points.
Yeah.
So the sport's built around their strengths, right, rather than their weaknesses. But for MMA, I mean, a lot of guys go out to Thailand to train. But you won't, even if there's MMA guys, UFC guys, for example, if they go out to Thailand to train for a fight, they bring their coaches with them. They bring all their team with them. It's just a cheaper training camp in a luxury place.
Yeah.
But they're not actually using the Thai coaches. And this is what happens sometimes. I think that when people go over to Thailand, they go over there with this expectation. And unfortunately, I could tell you a ton of stories that's going to be complete opposite to John's opinion.
Yeah.
You know, I see a lot of young guys go over to Thailand and get manipulated, especially Westerners. Westerners go over there and get manipulated a lot because they go over there, they don't know nothing about the sport, as in fact, they go over there to learn, right? And they go over there to do as they're told, and they work hard and so forth, and they're just an ATM.
Yeah.
Go over to Thailand, right? And anyone can argue with me about this as much as they want, but this is a fact. I've seen it firsthand numerous times. Not just once, I'm talking thousands of times over a 6-year period. I've seen normal people go into, like, I won't put any gyms on blast, but go into a Thai boxing gym in Phuket, want to go and train for a couple of days just to say they've done it, you know, the complete beginners. And then after a couple of one-to-ones, the coach will say to them, "You want to fight?" And they're like, "What?" And they'll say to them, yeah, no problem. And they'll get the one-to-one money off them for all the privates leading up to the fight. They'll take the 20% from them for the fight, and then they'll get, the promoter will pay them 20% for bringing the Westerner. And then the Westerner gets his head kicked in, smashed to pieces. You know? And then, of course, it doesn't matter, right? Because the following week you shipped out back to wherever you're from, and they do it to the next person. So I can't honestly say that, you know, it's the best thing out there and all of it. But I see a lot of people get lost. They go there for a vacation for a couple of weeks. They forget their religion. They forget what they're from. Next thing you know, they're covered in Thai tattoos. They're walking around in Saudi cap and trying to act like Thai and bow into everybody. And then they come back, you know, and they forget the last 20 years they've been growing up in a completely different country.
Yeah, unfortunately, that's what happens. I've because when I was researching the camps and stuff, there is a lot of exact same stories that you're telling me about guys getting hooked in. And what happens with the big complaint is a lot of them say, again, I'm not going to name any camps, but some of the ones I was looking at, that they're put into, like you're told, it's supposed to be like, you know, 3 fighters per trainer, stuff like that. And loads of people have said it's absolute crap, that they're surrounded by, there's one trainer running maybe.
Listen, I understand. Listen, you're talking about, so they're all making money, right? And also, I also understand that I live there. So these people that go there for a couple of months or whatever and try and tell me what Thailand's like, I live there for a long period of time. My daughter went to private school there. I've been in the culture. I've seen it, and I understand it, because the fact is, majority, not talking about people that go over there for healthy training. There's a lot of people that have gone over to Westerners, especially to Thailand, shit on their religion, shit on the culture, use their women, and cause a lot of problems, right? For the country. But the country needs tourism because it's very poor. So they don't be surprised that if they call it, they hate your ass. And they have every right to hate your ass. And to a degree they do, right? They have every right to, but not me and you or the normal people going over to train, because they're more respectful, that we'd bring something with us, we pay our way, we're not going out drinking at weekends and acting a fool, you know, being disrespectful in temples and stuff like that. But there is a lot of people that are very disrespectful to the women, the men, to the temple, to the government, to a lot of things. And so they have a right to not like you, right, to a degree, because for hundreds of years, or for many years, people have gone over there and shit on their country. And but yeah, they kind of stuck. They need it because of the tourism. But for training wise, listen, I think it's great for anyone to go over there to train. and have the experience, right? Whether it's a good experience or a bad experience, that's usually down to yourself. Um, for myself, the best training camps I ever had was in Holland and America.
Yeah, that's another thing I was looking at, because obviously I've always heard of Holland. It's the some of the greatest fighters on the planet have come out of Holland. To name, I'm not going to even name them because I'll be all day. But that's another place I wanted to do a camp. It's simply because of the I love to hear the stories of, like you were just talking about, the actual traditional Thailand. You know,
Yeah.
not this, like, you know, the way they're trying to make it nowadays. You know, like a fucking another Las Vegas or something like that, where people go and party all the time. But the actual traditional side. But like you said, going to see the temples and things like that. But definitely Holland is another place I've wanted to have a look at and experience.
And that's another thing. People tend to set this thing of like, I'm going to go to Thailand because it's cheap. Well, yeah, it's cheaper. Maybe you get more, your money goes a bit further. But the problem is that when you finish it, it's not actually that cheap, because usually you go for one massage a week, right? But now it's so cheap, you have one a day. Usually you go to the restaurant and you have one or two, you order one or two dishes with your rice. Because it's so cheap, you'll order 4 or 5 dishes with your rice because it's so cheap. Who cares? And by the time the end of the month come, or the end of 2 months, wherever long you're there for, you spend just as much amount of money.
Yeah, you could have gone somewhere else if you wanted to just spend less, you know. Yeah.
Listen, I'm not bragging on Thailand. Don't get me wrong, and I hope no one takes it the wrong way. I lived in Thailand because I fell in love with the country. I love the country. We still have many friends in Thailand. One of the most amazing babysitters I ever had for my daughter was a Thai lady, and she's still beautiful to this day. We speak to her a lot. She's still very connected to my daughter. I've got coaches there that I'm still in contact with, that I speak to on a weekly basis. So it's not that case at all. I love the country. I fell in love with it. That's why I wanted to move there. It's beautiful. It's paradise. But keeping all that to one side, that's personal taste, right? If you're just talking about your development for the sport, I don't believe that you're going to get that from the main cities of Thailand like you used to. You have to go to like some parts of Bangkok, I think, if you want to have the old traditional style. I know I'm very close friends with Burkau's manager. You could go out to Burkau village and spend some training there. That's in the middle of nowhere. And you're going to get a real Thai training experience, rather than on one street with 50 gyms on it and 50 massage parlors that are brothels and 50 bars and restaurants and 50, there's all unpacked onto one little street that's just all designed to take your money. I don't recommend that's the case. That's not usually Thailand.
And it is a shame, because I'm sure there is still some of those great gyms that are out there with the real old-fashioned Thai, and they're losing out.
Yeah. But one thing you will get from working in Thailand, that's what you have to give credit where it's due. You'll work hard. You'll get in shape. You'll kick a lot. They'll make you run a lot. The weather is good for your body, right? It's always hot. You sweat like unbelievable. The food is clean and healthy. You're going to eat well. You're going to train hard. So all that stuff, you'll get in good shape there. Mm-hmm. Would you learn a ton? I think you'll learn more in Holland. You'll learn more in America. But that, again, that's down to my personal taste. That's coming from my experiences in life. If you went up to a person that's never had a fillet steak before, and all they've ever eaten is McDonald's, they will tell you that Big Mac is the best beef in the world.
Yeah.
No. Listen, this beef is unbelievable. They put it in between this bread, and it's got another layer of bread and cheese. They'll describe this Big Mac, which is a burger shit, right? But they've never had a fillet steak. They've never had a Kobe. They've never had any of that stuff. You know what I mean? So then one day you'll introduce them to a fillet steak and a medium rare, and they'll slice it and it'll dissolve on it, and they're like, oh my God. Well, fortunate enough for me, I had fillet steak from a very young age. From 18, I was in Holland working with some of the very best guys in the world. And then I was in America working with some of the very best guys in the world. So I'm not that easily impressed.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Because I've worked with some of the most elite coaches in the world. So to go to work in a normal gym in Thailand, where on Monday to Friday the guy holds pads, and on weekends he fixed the roof, and on Saturday he fixed the car to make money, I'm not going to believe he's the best coach in the world. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
He's a great guy to make money. He knows a little bit about Thai boxing, but yeah, he's great at training people that don't know much about the sport, that are there for a fat camp, or people that are there to just learn a little bit of Thai boxing because they're on vacation. Yeah, that's fantastic. But to be a professional athlete at the highest level, I'm not overwhelmed by that level of training.
I love the honesty. I think it's It's hilarious that only a heavyweight can break down martial arts through a steak. But that's brilliant.
Well, yeah, but if you think about it that way, you can break down loads of things like that, right? It's like
Yeah,
you can say, no, the best car in the world. If they've only ever had a little tiny Nissan, that's the best. The only other car they've ever seen is a Nissan, and
yeah,
the only car they've ever driven is a Nissan. That's all they've ever known. And then
yeah.
one day you pull up in a Ferrari, their mind will be blown. But if you
Yeah,
drive around a Ferrari for 20 years and then jump in a Nissan, you're going to think that Nissan's a piece of shit.
yeah. You're gonna see for what it's worth, really. Yeah.
Do you
The
know what I'm
other
trying
thing,
to say?
yeah, no, it makes total sense what you're saying. Actually, I love the honesty. It's that's one thing I like about you. Is you're straight up and honest. But you have,
Well, not everyone likes that about me, I could tell you.
no, I'm sure you get plenty of flack for it as well. But in terms of looking at your career, like I can't name all the places, but you have fought in probably every corner of the world, from what I see anyway. So
Yeah,
is
pretty
there a
much.
place that sticks out in your mind where you're like, an amazing place to fight in and to be in for the setup for everything really?
I really, of course, my first one was when I fought in Las Vegas, right? Because that was kind of really cool to go to Las Vegas and see my picture on a billboard in Vegas. That
Yeah,
way, for the MMA, that was kind of like the pinnacle. In Japan was awesome because that was the hub of K1 at the time. But since then, I really loved fighting in the Philippines. It was amazing, but for ONE FC because they had us like the whole of the Philippines was really fight fans. There was millions of
yeah,
people in the streets. We had to have police escort through the whole city in a bus to get us to the arena. It was that busy. And then Dubai was really cool as well. That was an amazing place. Lots of fight fans in Dubai. That's really obviously massive now for fights. To be honest, and then even going out to like Russia and places, they're all different in their own aspect. But I think that's one thing about. That's why I always say, of all the problems in the world, I wish everyone was like fighters or like fight gyms, because no matter which gym in the world you go to, you'll always get on with someone in that gym if you're from a gym. Because in the gym, there's no racism, there's no
yeah,
you got this money, I've got this money. There's none of that bullshit goes on. It's just we all like to train and we're all going to get on. So whatever country I've been to in the world to fight, even when I fought like the hometown hero, yeah, of course they boo me when I walk out, but after the fight, they'll take pictures of you. The people are so cool. They want to invite you out with them, take you for dinner. Like, there's some really beautiful places for different reasons. Like, I love being in Russia. It was great to fight Croatia. I forget. Belgium, yeah, Turkey.
yeah,
I pretty much fought all over. You name the country, I probably either trained there or had a fight there one stage or another. And yeah, there's a couple of ones that really stand out. But on a whole, I just love fight fans really
yeah.
because whether they like me or they hate me, I don't care. I just think that without them, I wouldn't have all the best things in my life, and they appreciate the sport that I love. So for me, I'm always blessed to have them.
Yeah, to me, like I said, when I was reading through some of your accolades and so on, I was reading the countries and I was like, unbelievable the amount of places you've been to. But in terms of, I know you kind of touched on your future a little bit, and I know it's hard to say with the way times are, but for before you actually decide to retire, is there something in mind you would like to do?
Yeah, I want to fight on Glory.
Oh, really?
Okay, one. That's what I've been trying to get. They contacted me a few months back and asked me would I step in to fight last minute in the tournament. They had someone put out the tournament, and I said yes, no problem. And then they called me back 24 hours later and said it wasn't possible because of COVID and this and that. But I felt we could have made it happen because I have a British passport and the fight was in Europe, and I wouldn't have had to quarantine. I would have had to quarantine when I come back, but they felt I would have had to quarantine when I got there, and but I didn't agree with that. But they know more than me at the time, so I was like, okay, you know. But I honestly feel I was away from K1 for many years, 8, 9 years, actually almost 10, and I started K1 again a couple of years ago. And in that time, I fought some really high level guys and beat them all. And I really feel that it's an unfinished business for me in K1. I feel that I'm young. I'm 40, but I'm young inside. I feel like I'm
Yeah.
experienced. My body's healthy. I'm healthy. Like I fought the K1 guy from Glory, Daniel Ilonga, who was ranked number 2 in the world for K1 for Glory. I knocked him out badly, and he was never been knocked out before. And then I fought Murat, who was also undefeated and doing loads of good fights in all over Amsterdam and Holland and beating everybody. And he was in talks of making a big deal with, and then I beat him. And then now he just, after my fight, he signed with ONE FC and won their K1 title. So at my age, I've already beaten these young guys that were unbeaten. And at a very high level. And I think there's some fights that are there, like me and Badr Hari would make an awesome fight. I honestly think me and Benny would make a great fight. And I'd like to go and fight Rico too. I think that I've studied him enough and my coach has studied him enough that we could dissect him and take him apart with experience and with a perfect game plan and put this stuff to use. But we were in talks back then, and then they kind of, right now it's hard with COVID. Because they're about flying people in and flying people out and so forth. And they're also a bit hesitant of signing me in my age, they tell me. Yeah. So I don't know if that's always the truth, because like Peter Ertz was still fighting way into his 40s. Jerome Lubana still fighting way into his 40s. I mean, Mickey Ward and Gatti were fighting. Mickey Ward was 39 when he fought Gatti and had a trilogy. So Randy Couture was 44 when he won the UFC heavyweight title. There's been many people out there. Joe Foreman, George Foreman won the heavyweight WBC title at 45. Yeah. So there's many people out there in their 40s that have still performed and done great things. So I still think I've got way more left in my tank. I don't think age is important. But yeah, that would be one thing that I would like to put on my resume before I'm done. I'm being stubborn about it. I'm not going to stop pushing. And if I get it, then I'm going to be very, very prepared. Yeah, but who knows?
People can mention the age, but I mean, it's pretty clear you're in great shape. You're healthy. Your mind is healthy. You've got the hunger. So I mean, why not? And it's pretty clear you're going to give any of those. They're good fighters. You're going to give any of those boys a test.
I just don't feel that. All I need is an opportunity. Give me that one opportunity, and it's left to me. I feel like if I'm good enough to step in and save the day when you don't have someone or someone drops out of the tournament, then I should be good enough to step in on a contract. And I'm not saying give me a 10-fight contract or a 5-fight contract. You can give me one fight. I'll do the rest. Let me win my fight. Give me one fight deal. If I lose, then you got someone who's used me as a stepping stone, right? They use my accolades. They beat me, whatever. They can move on to bigger and better things if they beat me. But if they don't beat me, then I want a real contract. Then I want 3 to 5 fights, and I want to push for it. And I think that I deserve that. Someone who's done what I've done in the sport, I feel that, and to beat the people I've beaten the last couple of years, I feel that I've got something to prove, and I think I can do it.
Absolutely. And you still have the fucking insane fight, hopefully, bare knuckle with Shannon the Cannon Briggs, if that comes up.
Yeah, who knows? I mean, I said yes, and he's not scared of fighting no one, that's for sure. He's crazy. He'll fight everybody, but I think it was down to money. But yeah, he wanted a lot of money, but they could afford it, I don't think, or they weren't going to pay him. I'm not too sure what it was, but yeah, there's always, listen, for me, I've had over hundreds of fights, over 100 easy. So for me, I've never been short on getting fights. So that's one thing that's always been good for me. So there's going to be way more on my accolades of fight finish.
That's good. Well, listen, I'm not going to keep you any longer, James. I cannot thank you enough for coming on the podcast. It's been an honor talking to you.
So much. And, if you send me the link, I'll make sure I post it. So let me know when you've got the link up. Send it to me, and
absolutely.
I'll repost it.
Definitely. I'll take me a day or two to edit it and stuff like that. You know how these things work. But listen, again, can't thank you enough. I wish you all the best with whatever you're doing, and I wish you all the best of luck in martial arts and everything else, my friend.
Take care, friend. Speak to you soon. Take care.
Thanks, guys. Take care, brother.
And we're back. So that was Mr. James Mc Sweeney. Hope you guys enjoyed it as much as I did. Yeah, listen, he's a great guy. It was a lot of fun talking to him. And I will try and get him on again, hopefully. Like I said, super honest interview, and it was great. Just, with all that was going on in Texas, when I called him, he still made time for me, which I super appreciate. But give him a follow online on his Instagram and stuff like that, and check out his gym and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, he's one of those legends of the game, and I'm super happy to talk to him. So, thank you.